One of the famous stories told about the Berdichever Rebbe, that great ambassador on behalf of the people of Israel, in his defense of them before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is that he turns to one of his Chassidim, and we know this in various variations and forms handed down throughout the generations. He turns to him and he says, "Tell me, Rabbi Yehuda, I know that you aren't conversant with the liturgy, with the different philos of the Yom Naram. So what do you say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu?" And the poor little Yiddilah turns to him and he says, "Rebbe, I'm ashamed to say that I turned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and with, I guess, more than a tablespoon full of chutzpah, I turned to him and I said, Ribbonu Shalom, in truth and indeed, I am a sinner. I am a chote. Chotasi pashati, avisi pashati. But Ribbonu Shalom, you know how poor I am. And you know that I feel that I have to work on Shabbos. And when I travel on Shabbos Kodesh from one city to another, many times I can't find a source of kosher meat, and admittedly, I eat treif. And I veritably never look inside a sefer. I don't have time to. And even when I do have a moment to open up a sefer, I choose to rather go to sleep. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look at what's going on in the world and look at yourself, as it were. You take children from the parents and parents from the children. You bring sickness into the world. You bring such strife into the world. And you bring our enemies upon us, falling upon us at each and every turn. So, Ribbonu Shalom, let's make a deal. You have sworn to the protection of your people and seem to permit us to be so abused. Let's make a deal. You forgive me, and I'll forgive you. He turned the Berdichever to the Chassid and he said, Tyra, my gosh, you had HaKadosh Baruch Hu by the coattails. You could have demanded of him that he bring us the Mashiach. What a beautiful story that is known to all of us. But where's the makkah? Where's the source in Chazal or the Torah HaKdosha for such a story, for such a narration to take place, and for such a response to be given by the Berdichever? I'll tell you where it is. In this week's Seder of Shemos, we know that by the end of the lifetime of Moshe Rabbeinu, when Lashon Hara is spoken about him by no less than his sister Miriam to his brother Aaron, HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs forth in his defense, and he says to them, do you know of whom you speak? Do you not realize regarding your brother Moshe Rabbeinu that he is a person of whom I can state unequivocally that we have such a relationship that we speak to each other? Madua lo yaresim, why were you not fearful of him? The daber ba'avdi v'Moshe, to speak about my servant, my Moshe Rabbeinu. After all, pe'el pe'adaber bo, I speak to him mouth to mouth. We speak to each other. Umara v'lo b'chidos, and without the need for reinterpretation. Usmunas Adonai yabit. He looks at me and he can see me, as it were, my face, as it were. And following the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu personally attests to the fact that never within Klal Yisrael was there the likes of a Navi, a prophet of Moshe Rabbeinu's like. Asher Yudo Adonai, who was known by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, panim al panim, face to face, and says the Ramban, face to face, that Moshe could even converse with God, as it were, based upon the nuances of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's face that were identified by Moshe Rabbeinu. But it wasn't always like this. For in this week's Seder of Shemos, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu first presents himself to Moshe Rabbeinu in the burning sneh, in the burning bush, and Moshe Rabbeinu sees it and moves aside to come closer to see what gives. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, remove your shoes. I am the God of your father, of Amram, of Avraham, of Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Says the pasuk, Vayaster Moshe panav, that though he moved closer to the bush to see what was going on, he immediately covered his face. Ki yarei, for he was scared, he was frightened, mehabit el Elohim, from looking at HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the thorn bush. He comes along the Baal HaTurim, and listen what he says, citing a pasuk from Iyov, he says to us, She'ilu haya mabit beziv hashchina, Moshe Rabbeinu should never have masked his face at that moment. For were he to have looked at the face of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, with a face-off, as it were, panim upon him, B'soch hasneh, when God was appearing to him from within the burning bush, v'haya mevakesh rachamim al Yisrael, and word to he have turned to a Kadosh Baruch Hu and said, look at the suffering of Egypt, of your children, of your kidduch, of your people. Lo hayu golem yoser, they never, ever, ever, ever would have suffered another exile. They would have been redeemed, brought to Eretz Yisrael, never to be banished, never to suffer under the whip of any other nation for the eternity of time. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't always look at a Kadosh Baruch Hu panim upon him. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't always look at God without hesitation. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't always look at a Kadosh Baruch Hu and stand in the defense of Klal Yisrael, so that they not be destroyed during the hour of God's anger. And where Moshe Rabbeinu, at that first exposure to the Almighty, have looked him squarely in the face and said, this is not acceptable. We are the people of God. We are the chosen nation. This is not acceptable. We never ever would have been subject again to the rulership of a foreign nation. Where did the Berditchever get this from? Where did he receive these broad shoulders, these breita plates from? From Moshe Rabbeinu ultimately, but not from the first introduction of Moshe to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is where it comes from. Moshe Rabbeinu had that opportunity. And who knows if there are not such opportunities for little men and little women of such smaller nature. But moments of exposure to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we daven to him and speak to him with the greatest of earnest, and can utilize the moment to face off, as it were, face to face with HaKadosh Baruch Hu on behalf of our people. Have a wonderful Shabbos.